So you want to learn how to use the scripting API, but don't really know where to get started, or you've tried to follow other tutorials and they don't really explain everything that well. So that's where this tutorial is supposed to come into play. I'm going to be trying to teach you everything possible, as well as teaching you how to learn on your own without relying on tutorials, because I'll be honest, tutorials aren't the best. It's always better to follow a tutorial after you've looked at documentation and cannot figure it out. You're not always going to find the actual solution to everything through a tutorial, so that is where looking through the official documentation to find out what you want to do or see if it's even possible is very helpful. Alright, so anyways, the first thing you're going to want to do is download Visual Studio Code with the download in the description down below. You're also going to want to get Bridge, as well as Node.js. All three of those are very simple to download and install, so go ahead and just install them, and then once you have them installed, go ahead and open Bridge. Now that Bridge is open, we're going to want to create a new project, or if you have an existing project, just go ahead and open that. If not, and you've never used Bridge before, go ahead and tick whichever one you want. For scripting, you're always going to want a behavior pack, but you don't need a resource pack. If you go down to experimental options, you need to turn on beta APIs. That is going to enable the scripts. Then go down to individual options, turn off literally everything. We don't need any of this unless you're doing like custom blocks and custom items. Then you might need item texture, the sounds, flipbook textures, terrain texture, that's for blocks. But for this example, we're not going to be using any of that. We can go ahead and rename this to scripting. This is whatever you want it to be called. I'm going to call it Scripting API Tutorial, and add a project description if you want. You don't actually have to do this. Then go to the project prefix. You can change this, and I highly recommend that you do. This is basically when you do /give, and normally by default you would be doing like /give Minecraft stick. Well, this would be /give JA stick, or whatever your custom prefix is, and then you're adding your block or item name after that. Go ahead and add your project author. I recommend to leave the target version to whatever it is, and you can tick this. Then click create. Now you have a basic pack. There is going to be a couple issues. If you were to try to add this to a world already, it's going to throw errors basically because things are out of date. If you go down to your manifest, you can actually go down here and under Minecraft server, as of the most recent version, it is 1.8.0. and then in the UI, it is 1.2.0. I don't believe they ever updated game test, and I believe it's actually deprecated, so I think you should be able to remove this, but I'm not really sure, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. That's basically it. Now if you press Ctrl S after changing that, and then add it to a world, so go ahead and load up Minecraft. Alright, so go ahead and load up Minecraft, create a new world, or load up an existing world, and just make sure to add your behavior pack. For this, it is the Scripting API Tutorial. Go down to examples and make sure to turn on beta APIs. This is going to enable scripting. Then do whatever you want to your world, click create, and now you should have scripting enabled. One way to check is going to here and click on creator, content log history, and this should show you any errors that happen inside of your script. So right now it says does not contain main file main.js. The reason it's saying that is because my main.js is actually empty. If I were to add some code to it, it would fix that issue. For now, I'm going to go ahead and clear that, go back to Bridge, and what we're going to want to do is go into here. The first thing you're going to want is to import your world from your server. So import world, and this is going to be from Minecraft. You're going to want to do an @ symbol, Minecraft/server. Now we have imported our world. If we go back to Minecraft without closing the world, it doesn't matter if you could close it and reopen it, it'll do the same thing. And type /reload, and then we go back to our settings. You can see it didn't actually show the error this time. The reason is because we added that one line of code. It was basically just saying that your main.js is empty. From here, we're actually going to switch out of Bridge. Go ahead and keep it open because you are going to have to click this refresh project button every time you want the script files to register back to Minecraft, and once you change them in Visual Studio. But now go ahead and open Visual Studio Code. Alright, inside of Visual Studio Code, you're going to see this blank project thing. Go ahead and click Explorer and open folder. This is where you're going to find your project folder, and go ahead and click on it. If you don't know where your project actually is, go over back into Bridge, click this 3 dots, and click Open Project Folder. Now, find this. This is the project that I want to be using. Copy that path, go back to Visual Studio Code, and paste that into here. Now you're going to want to go ahead and click on Behavior Pack and select Folder. And now you could see your Behavior Pack in your script file. Starting off, you're not actually going to be able to see much. Like if I type in world dot, it's not going to show any examples of anything. So what you're going to want to do is click up here where it says Terminal, New Terminal, and make sure that you already have Node.js installed using the download link in the description. Once that's installed, you're going to want to go over to the official documentation of Minecraft, and this is what it's going to take you to, and then click on Scripting, go to Use Visual Studio Code, and copy this right here. Now go back and go into your terminal, paste that in, and click Enter. What that did is it added these node modules for the Minecraft Common and Minecraft Server. If you go back to the documentation, you can actually see, if I go down to Reference Documentation, Scripting APIs, you can actually see Common is right here and Server is right here. And everything inside a server is right here. So you can get like the entity, you get item stacks, which basically has the amount of the items and the item type and stuff. You can get world, and this is what we're going to be using to register functions and stuff. So go back to Visual Studio Code, and now if we type in world dot, you can actually see world dot before events and world dot after events, as well as all of these other things you can call. So like I could call world dot get all players, and that will basically return a list of all the players in the game. But what we're going to be doing is world dot after events and then item use. You're also going to want to do dot subscribe. You're going to do that on any function using after events or before events. And then inside of here, let's do event. This is just the event name. It's going to be returning a item use after event. So if we go back to the documentation, we can click on after events, and these are all the after events we can use. So let's find item use, and you can see right here, it is a item use after event signal. If we click on that, it returns an item use after event. So that's basically what we're naming this event. And inside of this event, it's going to house a source and a item stack. So what that means is now that we have this named event, we can go ahead and do this equal sign and the little caret thing, or whatever they're called. And now inside of here, we can actually check if event.item stack, now that pops up, and you can see that's because of in here we have the item stack. We can actually click on item stack here and see everything that the item stack has. So we have the amount is stackable, keep on death, lock mode, max amount, name tag, type ID, and this is actually what we're going to be using to check what kind of item it is. So go back into Visual Studio, item stack dot type ID is equal, and when you're inside of an if statement and you're checking if something is equal to something, you're not going to use one equal sign because that's setting. That's basically trying to set type ID equal to this. You're going to be using 2. I believe in JavaScript it's a little different, and sometimes people use 3 equal signs. I don't exactly know the reasoning for that. I use 2 and it seems to work every time, so you can go ahead and stick with 2. It's fine. And then you're going to type your item that you're going to want to check for. Let's go ahead and type in Minecraft:stick just for an example, and then we're going to use these little squiggly brackets, and inside of here now we can run everything that's going to happen when the player uses an item. That's basically the same as right-clicking with the stick. For this example, we can go ahead and just apply maybe some knockback to the player. So if we go back to the documentation, go back a couple things, actually right here, we can look at event.source would get us the player because it's going to return a player. And inside a player, we can actually see everything that we can call on the player. So not only can we see everything that's inside of the player, but it also extends the entity class, which means if we click on this, we can also get everything from the entity inside of the player. So we can get the location, is swimming, it's sprinting, is in water, basically everything, like the ID, what dimension it's in. And this is all very, very useful stuff, as well as we can do add tag, apply damage, apply impulse, apply knockback, and that's actually the one that we're going to be using right now. So we can do apply knockback, we could read down here, and right here, it looks like it takes a direction for the X and the Z, and then the horizontal strength and the vertical strength. So it's going to take in 4 things. So we can do event.source, because it's going to return the player, .apply knockback, and then you can see right here, because we imported the Minecraft server, we can actually see the direction Z, direction X, and this is basically everything it's going to pass in. So we could do 1, 1, and then for the strength, let's do like 2 and 2. Now we can end that with a semicolon. And if we head back into Minecraft, we can type in /reload. And if I go ahead and give myself a stick right now and right click, it does nothing. The reason it's doing nothing right now is because you actually have to go to bridge and click refresh project. That's going to apply the changes to the pack based on anything that's actually changed. So if I close this and now reopen it, you can actually see everything change. So go back to Minecraft, do /reload, and right click. See? I just applied knockback every time I click the stick. But there's one issue with this. You see, I'm always getting launched in this same direction. If I turn around, I'm always getting launched this way. Let's turn this to noon. And we can see that better if I go way over here, stand right here, right click. I'm going that direction. If I turn this way, I'm going that direction. No matter what way I'm facing, I'm going to be going that way. The reason is because if we go back to the code, we are applying it 1 on the X and 1 on the Z. So go back to Minecraft /game rule, show coordinates true. So 1 on the Z is this direction and 1 on the X is this direction. So we're always applying it this way. So how do we get it to apply based on the player's facing direction? Well, that's actually pretty simple. If we go back to the code, we can actually use event.source.getViewDirection. And that's going to return a vector 3, and we only want the X and the Z. So we can do .x, paste that over here, and then type in .z. So if we go ahead, refresh project, go back to Minecraft, reload that. Now we right click. You can now see that we're actually going forward every time we click it. So if I click it this way, it also makes me go that way. Let's go ahead and turn this down on the Y direction to like, let's say 0.1 or 0.2, and then change this to like 4. So it's extreme on the forward direction. Refresh, go back to the game, reload. Now let's right click. If I right click it, you can see I'm actually going flying in a forward direction. It's very cool. Instead of applying knockback, maybe let's spawn a animal. There's actually a few ways to do this. One way, we're just going to do the easy way. Event.source, because now we have the player. And if we go back to the documentation, we can actually see all the way down towards the bottom, I believe. We should see run command async. And basically, we don't need this to return anything, but we can go back. We can do run command async, and this is going to take in a string. A string is basically something with quotes. So like it's kind of hard to describe exactly what a string is, but think of like a page in a book. That would all be a string, like, or a sentence. That is a string. An integer or an int is a whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3. A float is a decimal number. So 1.1, 1.01, 1.02, 3.1, any of those. And that is kind of where we are going to be inputting a string into this. And this right here is actually a string. You can tell because of quotes, as well as this right here. If you look at the very top, it says item stack.typeid is a string. Same with, let's say right here, if we hover over that, that's an item used after event. So if we go ahead and copy that back into here, you can actually see it shows us exactly what that is. And that's very handy when you're trying to figure out what something is or how to use something. But anyways, we want to run a command. This command, if we hover over this, it's going to say runs a particular command synchronously. So basically, instead of trying to run it like right away in that specific frame or whatever, it's going to try to run it whenever it can run it. So let's say we were running this when an entity dies, but the player's dead. You can't actually run it on the player. So if you're running asynchronously, it's going to run the next time it can run. There is a maximum queue of 128, so you can only have 128 in a tick. And there's 20 ticks per second, so that's quite a bit of commands you could line up, basically. It says right here, command to run. Note the command string should not start with a slash. So we're actually not going to use a slash in this. And we're going to type in summon pig, but we want it to summon on the player. Right now, it would actually default to the player, but I think what we should do is maybe let's spawn it 2 blocks above the player. Well, how do we do that? We could actually type this, and this, but instead of this middle one, let's actually do plus and do event.source.location.y. And we can do +2, then plus, put quotes again, and then for here, we're gonna do space and then that. Basically, what this is adding some data into a string. So summon pig with the current location plus the Y position +2 plus the current Z position. So now if we save that, go back to bridge, refresh project, go back to Minecraft. Now if we reload and right click, it's doing nothing. Well, why is it doing nothing? Oh, well, I guess it's not doing nothing. It's just spawning way too high. So if I were to go way over here and right click, we should see a pig fall from the sky. Yep, there we go. So I don't actually know why that pig is falling from such a high height, but one way we can actually check right now is maybe by just using say. So let's go ahead and do say instead of spawning a pig. And right here, we're gonna add event.source.location.x plus, and actually, let's go ahead and make a new value for this. So let's do let chords equal event.source.location. And now instead of calling all of this, we could actually just do chords.x plus, do a space in between, chords.y plus space plus chords.z. And let's go ahead and add a comma here and a comma here. And now if we go ahead and save that, back to bridge, refresh and check. Now, if I right click this, we can actually see the exact coordinates of where the player is standing. So if we go back to the code and do chords y +2, that was what was giving us that weird error before. Well, not an error, but you could see, look at that. That is why. It's because we're adding to the string. So it's not adding the two numbers together. It's actually doing 68 and then adding that digit onto the end of it. So what we could do instead is do let y pause, that's just going to be a y position, equal to event.source.location. Or actually, we could do chords now because we have that new value, +2. And so now, that's actually because chords is a vector 3, and this is returning a number, and it's not a string. It's actually going to add the two numbers together. So y pause, we could replace this right here with y pause. Now we save it, go back, refresh, reload. Now we right click, and now you can see it's actually working. So now we can actually use that again for our summon command. So basically all I did was summon pig space, make sure there's a space here, then add the coordinate x, add another space, add the y pause, another space, and then the z. So now if I were to go ahead and save that and reload, if I right click, you can actually see a bunch of pigs spawn. And that's every time I right click with this thing. Well, now I kind of want the pig to spawn maybe 10 blocks in whatever direction I'm facing. So what we can actually do is go back to the code and use instead of the source.location, we can actually use the view direction that we were using from earlier. And instead of y pause, we're actually going to get rid of that and use plus chords.y. Go ahead and make sure to save that. Go back to Minecraft, reload. And now, if I right click, nothing's happening. Why is that? Okay, so I just set it to the same say command, and now you can actually see the coordinates are something very bizarre. The reason for that is because it's actually using the rotational value in like a normalized thing. So it's like, if I were to look at exactly 0 right here, like basically if I line myself up directly with this line, that should be basically 0 on the X. And if I were to line myself up like basically right there, That should be like 0, 0. But anyways, instead of get view direction, we could actually add another variable, because that is giving us the correct direction, but we don't want to be spawning it in the direction. We'd actually want it to be spawning it in coordinate space. So we can do let chords equal event.source.location. Now we are going to be adding that. Let's add the direction to the chords. So what we can do is chords.x plus equals dir.x, chords.y plus equals dir.y, chords.z plus equals dir.z. What that's basically going to be doing is adding the direction in a normalized value, so it's only going to ever be a slightly larger distance. Now if we go ahead and save that, go back to Minecraft, you can actually see that it's adding to it by a slightly bigger number. So instead of just say, let's actually add a second line, so we can get the say command as well as a, maybe let's say particle. Okay, I believe that is how you use it. So I think it's just particle and then the particle that you want to use and then the coordinates. So, and now if we right click, we should be getting some particles. Oh, yep, we are. You can see them, they're just inside of the player. So if I like run, you'll see that it is actually spawning them like on the player's feet. Well, I don't actually want that. So what we can do is we can add 1 to the y, and then we could times all of these values by 2, because I kind of want them to be a little bit further in front. And make sure to put these in parentheses. The reason you want to put them in parentheses is because we want to add 1 to the total. You don't want to be timesing 2 by 1, or we don't want to be adding 2 plus 1, then timesing that by this, because it's going to be going by the order of exponents, so like PEMDAS or whatever. And so we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that this runs first. And that's basically just going to multiply our 0 to 1 value by 2. So it's actually going to be like 1 block forward rather than like 0.5 or whatever. And then we can go ahead and save that. And this is also going to be putting it at the center of the player's positioning. So instead of actually adding 1, let's add 1.5, because that'll put it closer to the player's head. And now if I right click, you can see it's actually spawning it wherever I look. Pretty cool, right? Now, what if we want every entity maybe to teleport there? We could do teleport entity type equals not player, and then TP them all at those coordinates. And if I press right click, spawns everything right there. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's almost like I'm dragging them around. So basically, if I turn around, it should make them all teleport that way and this way. Let go, and they should all fall. Awesome. Now, instead of actually doing just 2, we could actually times this by like 5 to make it quite a bit farther. And now if I do it, you can see they're actually quite a bit further away now. So that's actually going to be it for this first tutorial. If you guys want more of these scripting tutorials, just make sure to let me know, and I'll definitely be willing to make more of these. It's actually pretty cool what you can do with the scripting, as well as if you guys just want regular like add-on tutorials, like creating custom blocks, creating custom texture packs, skin packs, anything. Just make sure to let me know, and I'll basically get to whatever I have time to get to. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys learned something new, and I'll see you guys next time.